follow us way back in our history to explore the mystical figures of the Watchers or fallen angels. Some of you may know them as the ancient astronauts or the Anunnaki. Looking at various ancient records, we find a pattern of overlap concerning these figures. Stay with us to the end to find out who the real fallen ones are. Whoever they are they still ruling us? Are they among us? If they are among us, in what form do they manifest? And now, let us follow the trail of the true and hidden identity of the fallen angels. The most popular angelic or ancient alien invasion can be found in the Book of Enoch. There in chapter 3, we read the following. And it came to pass that when the sons of men multiplied, in those days beautiful and attractive daughters were born to them, and the angels, the sons of heaven, saw them and lusted after them, and they said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the daughters of men, and let them bear us children. And Samyaza, who was their leader, said to them, I am afraid that you will not truly do this deed, and I alone will have to pay the penalty for this great sin. Then they all swore together and bound themselves with mutual curses, and they were 200 in all, who came down in the days of Jared to the top of Mount Hermon, and called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves with mutual curses upon it. What's nice about the Book of Enoch is the precise details. The manuscript tells us that there were 200 observers. The place where they landed was Mount Hermon. We even find out about the fact that they bound themselves with a common oath. The story becomes even more interesting when we look for information on the matter in Babylonian and Sumerian accounts of ancient astronauts or aliens coming to Earth. The above is extremely consistent with the text found in the Genesis of Eridu. The first of these cities, called Eridu, she gave to the leader Nudimud. The second, Bad Tibira, she gave to the prince and saint. The third, Larak, she gave to Pabilsag. The fourth, Sipar, she gave to the gallant Utu. The fifth, Shurupak, she gave to Sud. On that day, Nintur wept over his creatures, and holy Inanna was full of grief for their people. But Enki took counsel with his own heart. An, Enlil, Enki, and Ninhursaga made the gods of heaven and earth swear by the names of An and Enlil. At that time, Ziusudra was the king and priest who performed the lustrations. He, being a prophet, sculpted a statue of the god of vertigo, that is, the inspiring ecstasy, and stood in awe before it. As he stood there day after day, he heard something that was no dream. Conversations, the laying of oaths by heaven and earth, the touching of throats in acknowledgement, and the gods affirming their decisions before Kiur. Very similar to Enoch's account, we see a list of the names of various creatures. They are given power or dominion and take an oath. Similarly, in the list of Sumerian kings, we see Apkallu. According to the Sumerian list of kings, which we looked at in detail in a previous video, there were 5 important cities that preceded the flood. These early cities were ruled by 8 supernatural kings. Each of these rulers ruled for an unusually long period of time, ranging from 1 to several centuries. The first 7 of these pre-eternal rulers were served by semi-divine advisors. Today, these advisors are known as the Apkalus. They were also the ones who introduced science and the arts to Sumer. Rather than dismissing the rule of the Sumerian kings as pure forgery, there may be more to it than meets the eye. These may have been representatives of an advanced age and civilization, an age where interstellar travel was the norm. From this perspective, the continued rule of the rulers becomes more plausible. But can we identify these beings and even give them names? Yes, we certainly can. The Book of Enoch kindly provides us with a complete list of the names of the leaders of the fallen angels. And these are Samlazaz, their leader, Arakulba, Ramiel, Kokablel, Tamlel, Ramlel, Danel, Ezekiel, Barakijal, Asael, Armaros, Batarel, Ananel, Zaklel, Samsapil, Satarel, Turel, Jomjael, Sariel. These are the names of the so-called leaders of the 10. Each of them was responsible for a group of 9 fallen ones. In the Sumerian narrative, we find something similar. Recall that Apkallu, also known as the 7 wise men, had the duty of helping the god Enki. In addition, the demigods had the duty to introduce art and science to the people. These 7 demigods were Wana, who finished the plans for heaven and earth, Wanaduga, who was endowed with comprehensive intelligence, and Meduga, who was allotted a good fate, and Megalama, who was born in a house, and Mebuluga, who grew up on pasture land, Aninlilda, the conjurer of the city of Eridu, Utuabzu, who ascended to heaven. If we go further, all the way down to the Nephilim, they should probably be equated with Apkallu's hybrids, the humans, not the Anunnaki themselves. Remember that the Anunnaki or Watchers were gods. The Apkallu or Nephilim were demigods. Some scholars like J.K. Greenfield argue that the story of the Nephilim in the Bible and Enoch actually derives from Sumerian mythology. Greenfield's point is that Judeo-Christianity often borrows from other cultural myths, or could it be the other way around? Considering the presumed worldview that everyone entered this study with, there are three possible outcomes when it comes to identifying the fallen angels. The Judeo-Christian view. In it, we see the fallen angels, also known as Watchers, consorting with human women. The Nephilim are the direct offspring of this union. The Nephilim were similar to what we know today as demigods. The earth was flooded due to the wickedness caused by these beings. The Sumerian view. Enki, one of the Anunnaki, created 7 demigods known as Apkallu. The Apkallu were destined to teach mankind. However, they began to mingle with human beings. After the flood, 4 hybrids between Apkallu and humans, called Umanu in some texts, appeared. These hybrids were mortal, but retained some of the divine wisdom, and their involvement in human affairs often caused conflict and the wrath of the gods. The view of reptilians. Reptilian theorists believe that the Anunnaki exploited human beings for their own selfish ends. After the flood, reptiles crept in to hide or disguise themselves and live among us as shape-shifting humans. Again, like Apkallu and the fallen angels, they gave rise to Nephilim. According to Sumerian accounts, the gods were benevolent, and the Apkallu were there to help civilize humans. The Book of Enoch, however, gives contrary accounts, speaking of their malevolent deeds. And Azazel taught the people to make swords and shields and breastplates, and made them acquainted with the metals of the earth, and with the art of working them, and with bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and with all kinds of precious stones, and with all staining tinctures. And much wickedness arose, and they fornicated and went astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Semiaz taught them incantations and the use of roots for rituals. Armaros taught them how to break spells. Barakiel introduced them to astrology. Cochabel showed them the mysteries of the constellations. Ezekiel taught them the knowledge of the clouds. Arakiel introduced them to the signs of the earth. Samsabael, Samsapil, revealed to them the secrets of the sun signs, and Sariel taught them the movements of the moon. Of course, not all of this knowledge is bad in itself, but the opening verses say that it has led people astray, pointing out the malevolence of the fallen ones. But there is an alternative view of the secrets passed on by the Watchers. Some strands of Jewish mysticism, especially Kabbalistic thought, approach the Watchers from a more esoteric angle. They are seen as part of the complex interplay between the different realms of existence, with their actions contributing to the cosmic balance between good and evil. The Kabbalistic tradition often views the transmission of forbidden knowledge by Watchers as a necessary, if dangerous, element of humanity's spiritual evolution. This view actually makes us think deeply about the duality of their role, for they are both disruptors and catalysts of human growth. The Kabbalistic view says that both perspectives, the evil and good intentions of the fallen, can coexist. Today, however, when we consider the fallen ones, it is a decision that each person must make for themselves. Whether Enoch or the Sumerian texts are telling the truth is for you to decide. But are they among us? At this point, you are probably asking yourself, what ultimately happened to the fallen angels or the ancient aliens? Are they still among us? If they are among us, in what form do they manifest? Can we tell them apart, and how? There are many examples in the Bible of angels in the form of ordinary human beings. Furthermore, we see that shape-shifting is documented in the Book of Giants. The Book of Giants is a Mid-Iranian work that circulated among the Manichaeans as a manuscript attributed to Mani. He was a religious teacher who lived between 216 and 274. Mani's views on faith draw on Christian and Gnostic traditions, and the angels themselves descended from heaven to earth. And when the 200 demons saw these angels, they were very frightened and worried. They took human form and hid themselves. Then the angels forcibly separated the men from the demons, put them aside, and set guards over them. Unfortunately, Mani has started describing the fallen as demons, which is not the same. However, something very important becomes clear from here. Whether he names them as demons or fallen angels, through the Book of Giants we understand that they can transform as humans. Especially when they feel threatened, the fallen angels apparently have something of a defense mechanism and transform into humans. The story of the fallen angels and their giant sons needed a bit of adaptation to fit into the Mani belief system. The only obstacle was the celestial origin of the Bnei Elohim, the sons of God, in Genesis 6, and the Book of Enoch, which did not fit with Mani's belief that no evil can come from good. So he translates them as demons, but actually still means the 200 fallen angels of Enoch's account. People have come to call them watchers, aliens, or Apkallu. Whether you come from a Christian, New Age, or ancient alien worldview, the prospect of demigods being here, or even still being here, is fascinating. Moreover, the likelihood that the fallen still have a major influence on Earth at this point seems not only possible, but probable. And how about looking at the fascinating theory that angels and demons are actually extraterrestrial beings? In biblical accounts, such as that of the prophet Elijah, we witness his being taken up to heaven in a chariot of fire. Ezekiel in his visions speaks of strange heavenly beings. We've explored the connections between ancient texts and modern UFO sightings, and they're sure to make you wonder if historical depictions of gods, angels, and demons are actually misunderstood evidence of advanced extraterrestrial visitors. It's all waiting for you in the video you see to the left of your screens.